confidence isn't a natural trait. Now, there are some people that are more confident than others, but actually confidence is a learnt thing, a learnt skill to have. And by using specific tools and creating specific habits means that you can take confidence into any situation that you want to take confidence into. And in this video, I'm going to give you some of those tools so that you can start building those habits and actually, really pivot the way you communicate, change the way you communicate so that you're much more confident. And it happens really, really fast once you get these tools implemented in the way that you go about your day. Now, confidence really matters a lot in what you say and how you say it. And I remember being at this event that I was running, and it had been an all-day event, and there were the last two speakers standing up in the room about to present to the audience in the next sort of 5 minutes. I was actually sat next to a very, very senior stakeholder in the room. In fact, he was the most senior person in the room. And in fact, he was probably the guy that the two presenters wanted to communicate, although they were communicating to the whole room. They wanted him to be engaged so that he would, have a discussion with them and progress their projects with him. And we were sort of sitting there chatting about the conference, chatting about the day. And he sort of says to me, look at her, gosh, she looks nervous. And I looked over at this girl. There was a guy and a woman behind the lectern waiting to present as they were setting up their presentation. And the woman who was sort of stood next to the lectern was visibly nervous. You know how you sort of like... It was written all over her face. The idea of presenting and communicating to everyone in the room obviously filled her with quite a lot of horror. And she was sort of, I remember because her feet were pointing out the door. And it kind of looked like if she could, she'd have just run out and gone out the door and never had to say anything to the people in the room. And it's not that is a criticism of her, although she obviously wasn't as effective as she could have been. It's what the senior stakeholder did next that's important. So once we'd had that conversation and he had, we sort of talked about how nervous she looked, the next thing he did was he picked up his phone and he started checking through his emails, replying to his emails, texting, communicating, started doing his day on his phone. So in those pre-minutes before the presentation, and because she looked like she was petrified, she'd already lost his attention. So although he was sitting in the room when they started presenting, he'd already decided subconsciously or, consciously that he didn't need to pay attention because they obviously weren't confident in what they were saying or confident in what they were communicating or doing. So he decided his time was better spent on his email, on his mobile. Now, he didn't say that and he didn't mean any disrespect to them, but that is the result of what that woman looked like before the presentation started. So confidence matters. And what is going on inside is what you communicate outside. So that you really need to be able to communicate confidence when you're in front of other people. Now, in this video, I'm going to give you the components of confidence. And you can go and get these components in a download and you can check through everything that I cover in this session. If you go and get the download at www.rewireconfidence.com, and there's a download there that includes all the components that I'm going to go through and how you sort of build your confidence and how you create that habit. So just go to www.rewireconfidence.com. So confidence matters. What you communicate matters in the way that you communicate it. I'm going to talk through the components of confidence in this video. So what we feel inside is what we project to others. What goes through our heads, how we feel, what are the feelings, the emotions that we have inside. It affects how we look on the outside to the outside world. It affects how we perform. It affects how we perform, because if we're spending half our brain on panic, or what if I say something wrong, what if I do something wrong, what if I forget something, blah, blah, blah. If you're spending half your brain effort, power on those things, then it affects how you perform and how you communicate. And it affects what you project to other people. Because remember, what's going on inside is what you're communicating outside. So I want to take you through an exercise, and the reason to do this exercise is so that I can demonstrate the differences in the components of confidence and why it's so important. And if you were sort of like, I don't know, this sounds all a bit sort of, smoke and mirror, whatever, airy-fairy, then I would just ask you to go through these exercises so that you can experience the difference in what's going on inside and what you project outside, okay? So the first thing to do is, if you can, or if you want to, sometimes it's better just to close your eyes. And I want you to go back to a time where you weren't feeling confident. Think of a time, a time when you weren't confident, or a situation. And if you can't think of a time when you weren't confident, then sort of imagine a time when you weren't confident. But most of us can refer back to times when we weren't feeling confident. And when you've got that, I want you to play that in your head. Play that movie in your head. And if you find it difficult to visualize or play things back in your mind visually, because maybe you don't have that those pictures going on in your head, just play back how you were feeling and what you were hearing and how you were breathing, and just start noticing that experience, what's going on in your head. Think back to that time. Notice the pictures in your mind. Notice how you're breathing. Notice your body language. Notice how you're feeling. Notice what you're saying to yourself. Just really connect with that experience where you weren't feeling confident. Just notice everything about what's going on. Okay, and when you're finished, just shake it out. Shake it out. I mean like this. Shake it out. You can stand up if you want, but I want to get rid of that. Get rid of that lack of confidence. Get rid of it. Okay, shake it out. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is think of a time when you were feeling confident. Think of a time when you were feeling confident. Again, if you can't think of a time, just imagine a time when you were feeling confident. But go back, recall a time where you were feeling confident. And I want you to just, again, play that movie in your head. Really engage with it. Notice, what did you see? Notice how you're breathing. Notice your body language. What you're hearing. What are people saying to you? What are you saying to them? How are you saying it to them? Notice the feelings inside. Notice all those components of confidence working together. Notice how you're feeling, how much you're feeling that confidence, and really engage in that experience. And when you're ready, just shake that out too. Yeah. Shake your head, roll your shoulders. Yeah. Shake it out. Okay. So what do you notice? What do you notice about when you recall going back to feeling not confident and when you were feeling confident? Now, lots of people say different things, okay? So it's different for different people. But people who talk about when they weren't feeling confident, they had prickles on their skin, or they couldn't breathe that well, or they were feeling tight, their body language was tight and stressed. And that, you know, you literally start sort of closing up your body language, tightening up, your breathing comes up here, and you start experiencing and feeling kind of edgy about that experience. And when you're going back over the sequence of when you were feeling confident, you know, the breathing pattern completely changes. You feel much more relaxed. You've got your posture's totally different, isn't it? And your shoulders are back, you're breathing deeply, your head's up. You know, I really felt relaxed, or I felt motivated, or that was totally different. There's totally different to those two scenarios between when you weren't feeling confident and when you were. Something that's really important to note from these exercises and from what's going on inside of you and in your mind, and the experience that you're having, is that your brain cannot work out the difference between what is real and what is imaginary. So your brain can't tell the difference between those two experiences, whether they're real or whether you've made them up. But what happens inside is, no matter what's going through your head, no matter what you're thinking or you're saying to yourself, or your posture or how you're breathing, no matter how much, whether that's real or not, you're going to have a response to that. You're going to feel confident, or you're not going to feel confident at all. And if you think about the times when you've been challenged and you've been like, ooh, like, you know, fearful of any situation. And in my lifetime, I've had extreme fear of certain things like flying and buildings and things like that. There's nothing different than what's going on outside of you. Everything is about what's going on inside of you. So if you run yourself through a pattern of being confident and all those elements of being confident, you know, what's going on in your head, what you're saying to yourself, what you're feeling, how you're breathing, the emotions that are running, then guess what? You're going to feel confident. If you run all the stuff through your head, your mind, what you're visualizing, what you're saying to yourself, that doesn't support you being confident, makes you feel, you know, fearful and threatened, then guess what? That's how you're going to feel. So the most important thing is that the brain cannot differentiate between those two things. So if you run the right things through your brain and have the right emotions and have the right processes, then you can actually make changes to how confident you're feeling in any situation very, very quickly. And we're going to go through what the components of those confidence things are, so that you can use these tools and make sure you're creating these confidence habits. And you can access the tools and the habits and the download for this video with those components in at www.rewireconfidence.com. That's www.rewireconfidence.com. So go and download that so that you've got reference to that and you can use that every day. Because the great thing about all of this is that actually you can change the components of confidence, the process of how you go into certain situations, so that you're more confident and you're communicating with more confidence and you're feeling more confidence. Remember what I said at the beginning, you know, what's going on inside is what you're going to be communicating outside. So use these tools and these components so that you can make sure that you're going in with more confidence. And you can download the PDF, which will give you these components at www.rewireconfidence.com. So, the components of confidence, what are they, and how do you make them give you more confidence? The key confidence components are: number one, visualizing your confidence, what's going through your mind, the pictures that you're running through your head. Number two is your body language and your breathing, your posture, where your breathing is coming from, whether it's deep down or whether it's tense and at the top of your near your throat, you'll start breathing less. And when you start breathing less, there's less oxygen going to your brain, so therefore you can't think as well as you should be. And when you're feeling confident, your breath is much deeper down in your body and your body is much more relaxed. So core component of confidence is body language, posture, breathing. And what we're feeling, again, that feeling of confidence inside will then change your posture and your state, and people will look at you and think you're more relaxed or you're confident, you look confident. And if you think back to the presentation I was describing at the beginning, where the woman was stood next to that lectern waiting to present to everyone, looking absolutely petrified, her breathing was very tight, her body language was very tense, and everyone in the room wasn't going, oh, she's got really shallow breathing. I was noticing things like that. But even when you don't, you're not focused on these things, you notice people's body language and you notice that they look tense and uptight if they're feeling that inside. So key component of confidence is body language and breathing. Another component, in fact, they're all key components of confidence. I don't think any of them, they all interlink and they are all very important. So number 3 is what you say to yourself. What is the dialogue that you're saying? Is what you're saying to yourself supporting you? Or are you saying things like, oh, I'm going to mess this up. What if I can't answer the question? What if I look stupid? What if? All those what ifs running through our heads. And those what ifs and that sort of internal dialogue that isn't supporting you goes on before, during and after those interactions that are important to you, right? So and I always say that, you'd never say that stuff to anyone else that you were with. You'd never say it to a friend or family. You'd never say it to anyone else at work, no matter what your relationship was about. So what you're saying to yourself and those things that one can say to oneself that are really nasty and really sort of unhelpful, you can change. And if you change that dialogue that's going on in your head, you can make sure that dialogue supports everything that you're doing. And you have to change, and there are strategies to do that and tools to do that, but you have to change the words running through your head. And I worked with someone who was like, never let anything negative go into your brain, always reframe it to a positive. And it's not that easy to do that, but there are tools that enable you to make sure what you're feeding into your head works for you and it gives you confidence. So we've got visualizing and the pictures that are running through your head, body language and breathing, what you say to yourself, and then all of those things is connecting together with your emotions so that it really resonates with you and means something, and you really feel that emotion connected to those components. Other key components are your self-image, how you see yourself, what you see yourself to be. When you go into meetings or presentations, or you start a new job, or you get promoted, or whatever the situation is, and you need to be able to make sure the image of yourself, how you see yourself, reflects how you want to be in life. So your self-image and your representation, how you think about yourself, needs to match how you go into any situation. Also your intention. So if your intention is to go into, and when I work with people who are doing presentations, if your intention is to just get through it, then how do you think you're going to perform in that situation? You're going to just get through it. But if your intention is to go into that room and present and engage and be effective and get the outcomes that you want from that meeting, then guess what? The chances are that you're much more likely to get those. You're going to be focused on getting the outcomes that you want and performing at your best. So self-image and intention is really key too. And with all of these components, creating the right habits and the right actions on a daily basis, and it's not, it doesn't take up loads of time. It's just spending a couple of minutes a day going through a process of feeling confident and making sure you've got all these key components working for you, and changing your state, changing how you feel at a time, and making sure you feel confident, even if it's just when you get up out of bed, would change the way you go in and interact with people during your day. So creating habits and actions that will create that confidence muscle so that you can flex that muscle anytime you need it by combining all of these key confidence components. It's really important to do so on a daily basis, because it's your choice in the end. You can take a bad state into any interaction. You can take a challenge state into any interaction. You can take a good state into any interaction, or you can take a confident state into the interactions you have. You decide. You have the tools and the skill sets and the habits and the practice so that you can really create, flex, build that confidence muscle no matter where you start from. And once you are confident, it's about performing at your best in the interactions that you have. So you can change your confidence, how confident you're feeling, anytime, anywhere, all of the time. Going through these core components of confidence every day to get your confidence muscle really working for a couple of minutes a day is really, really key to how you feel and perform in any situation that you go in. So go and download the PDF at rewireconfidence.com, and there it will take you through a step-by-step process of those key core confidence components. And when you do that every day, when you go through a process of creating that habit every day, just for a few minutes, it really changes the way you walk about and communicate and perform all the time. It has a compounding effect. You don't have to start off with confidence. You can build your confidence up, and then when you are confident, and that changes in different situations for everybody, but when you are becoming much more confident, it is then about performing at your best. So there's never a time when you don't need to be really flexing that confidence muscle so that you can perform at your absolute best. So get the download at www.rewireconfidence.com and go through those steps to change the way that you start your day or end your day or do both, or middle of the day. You can practice it in the middle of the day. You don't have to tell anyone you're doing it, but just go through the process for 2 or 3 minutes every day and flex and build your confidence muscle. And you can check out other quick habits of confidence, other tools and strategies, tools and techniques and tips on this channel. Go and check out the other confidence videos, because there are some other key tools in helping you build your confidence. But in this video and getting that download, it's about that core confidence habit, that core confidence muscle that you can just do every single day, and you feel good, and it's a great thing to do. Check out the other confidence videos on this channel too. There's lots of tips that you can go and check out that will also help really flex and build that confidence muscle, and that confidence gives you the keys to really doing what you want and communicating confidence to everyone that you interact with. So check out the other videos too.